Good morning. My name is Scott. I want to start a series of YouTube videos to really kind of make myself accountable on a lot of projects I have around the house. And in particular, my ham radio projects and my antique radios that I want to restore, as well as getting a lot of things in order. Now, I've been a ham now since 1991. I started as a no-code tech. Yes, naysayers, go ahead and roll your eyes. A few years ago, I kind of life got in the way for about 10 years, got out of things, and I had packed most of my gear away. And my friends about 6 years ago decided to go to Dayton. Now, they've been going to Dayton for a couple of years. Now, they're not ham radio operators, they just really like electronics. So what I thought I'd do is go to Dayton with them. And I said, gosh, if I go to Dayton, I should probably dust off my ham stuff. So I started dusting off my ham stuff. And then I said, hey, I should get my general license. Then I went and studied for the general license. And while I was at Dayton that year, I actually took and passed my general license. The following year, I said, hey, going back to Dayton, I should pass my extra license. And I think it was a couple years later. We've been going to Dayton every year, so I passed my extra license. So I have an extra class ham radio operator. I have several rigs downstairs, and some of the videos will show that. I started off with a Kenwood 430 years ago as a general purpose receiver. It still works. This is before I had my general class where I could actually go out and use it. Then I upgraded to the Yaesu FT897. I still use that on a day-to-day basis. And finally, I got a FT2000, which may be having some problems right now, but that's kind of my rig of choice. And I'm going to set up the 897 as more of a digital station. Along the way, I seem to have collected a lot of different things. A lot of antenna parts. I hopefully will use some of these to restore a butternut vertical, as well as put up some new dipoles. Clean out a ton of stuff. It's just amazing how much stuff you accumulate. I belong to the Vienna Wireless Society. It is a local ham club. It's a very active club. Unfortunately, like many clubs today, there's some older gentlemen in it, and some of them have passed away and have gone to estate sales and been the benefit of some of those estates in buying some more equipment. As well as, every once in a while we hear some other people passing away. Recently, I went to one who was into ham radio and restored antique radios and bought quite a few things. I'm going to, later on in this video, kind of show you the basement. And my hopes are to redo the whole basement, install a proper shack there, a family room, a bathroom, a bedroom / studio for my daughter and wife, and redo all the storage down there. And be honest with you, get rid of a lot of junk. Newton's law, which is when you remember the apple coming down off the apple tree, he talked about gravity. Well, that's what happens in our house. Everything seems to end up in the basement. I've been here a little over 10 years, so I have all my daughter's toys over those time, and I'm slowly getting rid of things, but it really needs a big clean out, and I'm going to start doing that. Actually, I have started doing that. I'll show you a little bit. Like any project, it gets worse before it gets better. Once we do that, I'll figure out where the storage is, where the ham shack's going to be, a very large family room, electronics bench, and then a general purpose workbench. And finally, putting together a studio and bedroom. I'm going to have some people come in and help with the drywall and maybe some of the plumbing. I do some of that, but I'm kind of a home improvement type guy. I do well until I get to a point where I can't do it anymore. I look at YouTube, other things. So there's the idea behind these videos also is to get some input from you all, some of the listeners out there. We'll go over grounding. I'll go over my antenna systems, and I'm really looking for some input to kind of help me out. I need Elmers out there like we all do, as well as learn from some of the people that are out there. I listened to quite a few YouTube videos, All American 5, Joe R.M. I never get the pronunciation right on that, and a few others. So without any further ado, I'm going to stop the video here, and I'm going to show you a few things around the house that are going to impact this. Once again, this is Scott. Okay, so we're going to start in the garage right now. And the first thing I'm going to kind of show you is this is a pile of coax cables, ropes, and antennas I've accumulated out of there. If you look underneath, you'll actually see a butternut and a few other antennas that have accumulated as well. The box on top there is a bunch of television wire, which I need to television coax, was that RG58, and as well as we come down here, quite a few parts that have accumulated, and I will be putting these all to good use, or hopefully selling some of this stuff to get it out of here. The next couple of items I'm going to show you are, there is a BC104 down here, the power supply for it, and the power supply for it, a Radio Shack PA amplifier that somebody gave me. I have a signal generator, Eco model 324, that needs to be checked out and redone. I have a Holocrafters general receiver back there. I have a Heathkit, I think it's a 301 back there, and I have the speaker for the Holocrafters back there as well. These are projects, they may work, they may not work. More than likely, they all need to be capped. I'll talk a little bit more about the BC104 in a few minutes. To say I'm embarrassed is an understatement here. I have a ton of tools, I have a ton of electronics. As you look in there, I have things that have just accumulated over time. Digital multimeters, things from Hamfest, things that people have thrown out, wires. I do skeet shooting, I have shotgun shells here. Lots of parts that I need to go through. And just bunches of junk that I seem to have accumulated over the years. So you go around here, I have a toolbox which is mostly empty because I need to put the tools in there. Lots of wires and stuff. A lot of things I need to take to a Hamfest and get rid of and start cleaning up. We have a little bit of a wine collection back there. This area back here is going to be mostly storage. Over here is where the electronics workbench will go. I'm going to have to insulate, put a ceiling in at some point, much better lighting. Over on this side, we will have our second workbench and tool area. Kind of, if you look inside of there, there's a roughed out bathroom there. All that needs to be cleaned out. You can kind of see where the stairs come up. That's the larger room where the ham shack is now, and the ham shack will be moved to another area. Hey guys, wanted to show you a quick view of my shacks per se. It's in a corner down here in the basement. As you can see, we have closed to the left and closed to the right. Here you'll see the 430 that I don't have hooked up right now. I have an antenna tuner for that. The laptop. Over here I have my 897 and my 2000. Like I said, I think there's something wrong with the 2000. It may actually have to go to the shop. Frequency counter, bunch of paper, a pair of headphones. Behind there's some speakers, and you kind of look in the background, you'll see a desktop, or the bottom of a desk. That will be the new operating shack. I'm going to set it up and then build a matching kind of hutch for it, so I put some of the radios in here. And of course we have the ubiquitous file cabinet where hopefully I'm going to store all the information, all this stuff. So more to come. Let's look at some other parts of the basement. Finally, this is another room. I actually had thought about putting all the workbenches in here, our electrical panels here. We had some workout stuff. Over there you can see our heating and cooling system and the water tank, treadmill, old stereo speakers, some pegboard that I've already gotten to start working this. The remains of Christmas here that has to be put away. This is actually a fairly large space. And we go over here, once again, I've been starting to work on a lot of different things. If we go up here, we can see that I've got several power supplies that need to be looked at, several mobile units that do work, lots of cables and things like that I've already started working on, AC power. Down here is a BC104 that should work with the power supply, and a couple of old printers and things like that. Finally, I wanted to show you the project we're going to be working on first for antique radios. This is a General Electric AM radio, All-American 5. As you can see, the cabinet's not in too bad a condition. A little bit of pitting here. I think I used some goop on it. As we look in the back here, we have the 5 tubes. I've cleaned it a little bit, but I'll be doing a lot more work on it. You can see there's some loose wires here. Actually, I think that may be the antenna wire. And I've actually had this thing running, but I am going to take it apart, redo the whole thing, mainly because just to get the experience. I have a whole $5 into this radio, so I don't have to work, and I think it'll be a great project to start off with. When I get a little bit better with that, I have another radio, and then eventually we'll tackle the BC-104. Oh, forgot to tell you about the BC-104. The BC-104 is one of the big old receivers, like a Super Pro, that was around during World War II and afterwards. I have two of them, and one of my people who Elmers me had these and gave them to me. The first one is stock. He said it's been partially recapped. It should work. Bring it up on a Variac. And that is the one that should work completely. The second one is a hybrid that in the 1950s there were several modifications out in QST and other places. And this particular one took the whole unit, moved some things around, took parts of the power supply, and allowed you to put an internal power supply in there. Now, he said this thing has probably not been touched since the 50s, and the guy never finished it. So I have a power supply. I have that. Of course, I've got all the manuals. I got the modifications. That's going to take some work. So my hope is one video soon, once we get things cleaned out, and that's, by the way, my first big thing is get things cleaned out. I'll bring the original one up, see if that works. If not, get that working, and he's agreed to help me with that. And then at some point, I'll completely redo the old one. And I think that's going to be a huge project. So that's why I want to do some of the other little radios first. Some of the things that I know that I didn't share downstairs is some test equipment. I do have several multimeters. I have a signal generator, a frequency counter. I have several Simpson meters as well. I do have a Variac. I have to test it out, make sure it works. I do not have an isolation transformer, so I'm kind of putting the word out that I'm looking for one. Really don't want to buy one new. They're like another $100, and whereas I realize it's critical, and all you guys out there who do this have told me time and time again it's critical. I'm going to look into buying one or making one, hopefully getting a used one there. I do have several variable power supplies. In fact, I think I have too many now. So once again, Hamfest coming up in a month or 6 weeks that I need to really have a lot of stuff go to. One of the other rigs I didn't show out to you down there, and I wanted to bring this up, is a Kenwood 120. This is a solid state radio. It's one of the first ones they came out with. It's like it's one of the predecessors to the 430. I literally had a query out there on either Craigslist or what's called Free Cycle, and someone said free radio, and I said, hey, I'd love to come out. This had been sitting in their barn for 20 years, and she said, you can have this. And I said, well, I'd be happy to tell you if it's really valuable. I'm going to come back and talk to you about it. She said, don't worry about it regardless. And I looked, they're worth a couple $100 when they work. This one has powered up. I haven't tried transmitting on it yet because I was waiting to get a Bird watt meter, which I also got at Dayton last year. So I have that. That's another of the projects out there, and probably needs to be recapped, as does the 430 at some point. But I have that. I got the matching power supply for it. I think there's a voltmeter test unit down there. Can't remember. And a few other bells and whistles. I have a capacitor checker, a very small one. I've got a lot of batteries down there that I don't have the charging supply for, so I'm going to learn about that. I've got a couple of big AGM batteries, so I can kind of go off the electrical here. I have a lot of RFI issues. We'll be talking about that, and putting a grounding system in, as well as redoing all the antennas here. Right now, I have a 10-meter dipole. I have a 20-meter dipole. I have a whole old CB radio somebody gave me that I use for 10 meters as a vertical, and that's literally sitting against the side of my house now. What I hope to have is several more dipoles in the back. I do have an HOA, but they really don't pay attention to the antennas right now. I have a small strand of bamboo in the back, and so I'm going to clear out a 5-foot section of that, and then go ahead and put the butternut in the middle of that, so you really can't see it at that point, and then run new lines underground to the house. Of course, put the grounding system is probably one of the first things I do. and then redo how everything comes into the shack. I have some grounding buses down there. So it's kind of like I've accumulated all this stuff, and now I have to actually put it in and make it work, as well as clean it up. I happen to be a kind of a little bit OCD on keeping things neat. If you look at the rest of the house, it's very cleared up, except for two areas, my office and the whole downstairs. So we're going to tackle both of these and have some fun doing it, and hope you come along for the ride. This is Scott. Take care, and we'll talk to you soon.